Later, we got those radiocarbon dated, and they came back.
South forensic anthropologist, a very well-known forensic anthropologist, and she managed to convince them and our archaeologists convinced them it was okay, and we proceeded from there.
It must have caused quite a stir with the locals if they come walking along here and seen CID and police tape.
I don't think anyone saw, fortunately. I think we were quite fortunate on that. They were only here, I think, for a few hours, and then they were away again, and this is, you don't get a lot of people passing here. So fortunately, it didn't make the papers or anything at that point.
Well, just at this moment, when you have something like that, a discovery that's quite precious, really, you don't really want the public poking in about it.
We had a complete embargo on it in terms of publicity. We didn't tell anyone. There was the core committee of the Rosemarkie Caves group. We knew about it, and we agreed between us we weren't even going to tell our friends or other people.
You see, the thing what I don't like about archaeologists and archaeology, there is a precedent for science. And there is a precedent for history, right, in this country, the same for anything. But the fact is that, the police actually wanted to section off the area to investigate whether it might have been a murder, obviously. The police, if, how old the body is, whether it's more recent or older, in terms of more recent times. But they managed to convince the police that it was an archaeological find. But the thing is, the fact is that anyone in that village alive today, that could be their ancestor. And, the fact is, they might not want it dug up and buried. They might want it unburied. They might not want it dug up. They might want it left resting in peace, right? And the thing with archaeologists is they think they can do what they want, regardless of anything. And the fact that they wanted to keep it secret and not tell anyone, the precedent for science actually can be overridden over, claims, other claims, religious claims, and so forth. Religious sites are meant to be protected under United Nations. Now, I know there's different legislation for burials and for archaeology, but the fact is that if it is someone's ancestor, and if there's a certain will and so forth, the archaeologists don't seem to have any sentiment for leaving things as they are or just leaving things undisturbed. It's all about themselves and knowledge. A lot of these finds, the thing is, we're at a stage now where, 100 years ago, we didn't have half as much technology and they couldn't even predict the technology. But now, with the technology that we've got, we know what technology we're going to predict when it comes to scans and things like that. A lot of things don't actually need to be uncovered and removed or disturbed. They can be scanned and examined with technology. And the future technology that we're going to have is definitely going to be able to scan them without even needing to dig them up or remove them just through the earth. And the thing is, they've got so many arrowheads, they've got so many items, general items and so forth, that they've got enough general discovery and knowledge now where they don't need every single item doesn't need to be removed. A lot of these items are taken away to museums and places that aren't even associated with the site. It's a miracle, to be honest. In Newgrange and Noth and Dove in Ireland, it's an absolute miracle that, for example, some things in those sites can't be taken out and can't be removed because, it's almost like, in the Cotswolds, they pulled some of the excavations to pieces and then, reconstructed it elsewhere. It's not made in the actual place that it is meant to be at. There was, my belief is that the same with the food and the diet. You know, the whole industry has compelled the food industry, you know, to push this food on us, use the advertising, hyper processed food, which now even the World Health Organization, many doctors there are saying has been bad. There are certain academics, because of what's happened to our ancient sites, and there's a royal imperial prerogative, which is to override the prehistory. This history is not really priority to the current ruling government and its establishment, because, you know, and particularly the Christian religion, it doesn't really like it's not really keen on, you know, pre-Christian knowledge. I mean, look at all the Howard Crowhurst evidence of Stonehenge, who've been advanced mathematics even before the ancient Greeks and so forth. I don't like a lot of the archaeologists' attitude. They've been guided by certain people, certain academics. There are academics from both sides, but there's been a tendency to just dig stuff up. And I know a lot of things have been restored, and that's a good thing. And I know that they have to dig it up to find out what, you know, how it's supposed to go to restore it. But when it comes to things like, you know, bodies and so forth, there's just kind of like no conscience at all whatsoever. And, you know, they don't even make any attempts to try, and, you know, they've got all these DNA technologies and things like that to try and find out whose relatives they are, which is actually getting towards to be possible to do that now anyway. And, you know, by the time they've finished, you know, digging stuff up and discarding things, and, you know, in Ireland, a lot of the ancient sites have been spoiled and ruined. So, you know, I think the archaeologists have had, I know they've got to get certain permissions, but they've really had it all going. I think they've had it going all going their way. And Neil Oliver probably won't like this, you know, because a lot of discoveries will need to be made by digging down. But I don't necessarily think that it would. You know, I don't. You know, a lot of people in archaeology and in science, you know, like they like the Nobel Prize, they like to write the book, they like to be the leader of the society. A lot of it isn't just about purely knowledge and learning. A lot of it is also about, you know, personal accolade and so forth. And a lot of the things that they do could be still examined in the future with more technology and less disruption and less disturbance. You know, they all say, oh, archaeology is destructive, it's destructive, that's what it has to be. But I don't think it has to be that way. And I still think a lot of it is selfishly motivated. A lot of it's selfishly motivated for their own success, their own career, their own success. And that's the same as the food industry, really, for, you know, the money. And a lot of the money made is excess money. A lot of these scientific discoveries, you know, and they don't, all the discoveries they make don't necessarily solve massive pieces of the puzzle and so forth. They just end up, you know, in a museum or another exhibit in a drawer somewhere in someone's collection. You know, I actually think that it is very, very, very disrespectful. A lot of the archaeology. I'm not saying all of it, but a large part of it, you know, and the fact that they're just doing, you know, even the police were coming down and going to section it off, right? But what about, you know, the people in the village? He doesn't know whose body that is, regardless of how old it is, you know, and what the will of, you know, even if there's any relatives alive today, which he can't confirm or disconfirm. I don't like it. And a lot of these people, the efforts they went to protect the bodies, the efforts they went to cover up and protect them, the thing with cremation is that if you believe in cremation and if you believe in that process, it is a destructive process. You're not trying to preserve anything. And, you know, whether or not, you know, you've got lots and lots of cremated bones of people and bodies put into sites, it seemed to me, thinking, you know, trying to think how the ancestors fought and the way they saw the world, you know, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and the whole with the psychedelic experiences, with the whole spiritual belief of those people, there's absolutely no point at all whatsoever cremating anyone and then trying to protect it or put it somewhere safe. You might as well just scatter it, because it's, you know, it's going back into the earth. You know, you're recycling the whole fabric of it back into the environment. So I don't believe in urns. To me, urns are ridiculous with ashes in. You know, if you want to preserve something and preserve what it is, then you protect the bones and bury it. The thing with bones, and it's got the memory of the person, it's got the genes of the person. There's a certain vibration in a bone, just like when you ring a bell and it rings and it's got a vibration in. You learn this from, you know, plants and trees. Anything worth protecting will be tried to keep intact. So people going out of their way, you know, to protect, particularly when you get to the ancient sites and building, you know, dolmens over things. I know we've got temples as well, and this is why they keep the bones of the ancestors near the people, because, you know, it's just the whole principle of relics, religious relics. The practice and principle of ancient relics, you know, like of the saints or of ancestors, is still used today. I mean, the Pope even, you know, has pieces apparently claiming to be Jesus' cross still. Apparently gave a little piece of it, fragment of it to Charles on his coronation. So that is the value of it. I mean, they've gone out of the way to even, not even actual the body of the person, not even the person, just a piece of the cross. It was that important to put, you know, that bit of wood. He gave it to Charles for his coronation, right? So that is ultimately the value of people. And apparently, you know, Jesus was a person who lived, so they're claiming, right, in the whole entire framework of the religion. But yet, when it comes to, you know, as soon as it's not, when it's not Christian, when it's people before that, dig them up. You move them around, chuck them about. They're not exactly sticking a piece of it. And this is the thing. I've just actually seen the Ridley Scott Napoleon advertise. I beg your pardon. I've just seen the Ridley Scott Napoleon advertisement pop up for his new film, right? Ridley Scott, right? What I want to know is why is Pope Francis and Charles, right? You know, handling a fragment of wood as if it's like, you know, worth more than Elon Musk's, you know, best diamond knuckle duster, right? Yet, when it comes to our ancient sites in history, they're chucking them about like they're, you know, pebbles, you know, like, you know, beetles crawling under the cobblestones, you know, Liverpool, you know, Cairns and so forth. It's And then the fact they've got these archaeologists right now, just, let's dig it up, you know, check it around. Oh, the police are coming to section it off. Oh, no, it's all right. You know, it could be someone's, don't tell anyone. We don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone, you know. Oh, like their ancestors around here. You know, I think that some of it's criminal. I think some of it is criminal. And I actually think that if you can actually find the relatives, and if they say, well, actually, I don't want my relatives dug up, you know, some of these archaeologists could be prosecuted, and I know Neil Oliver won't like that. Yet, you know, when it comes to Neil Oliver, you know, when it comes to the corrupt royal family and the corrupt government and the corrupt elite taking away our history and heritage and, you know, ruining the island, you know, I'm on his side. But I'm not on the side of archaeologists 100% altogether. They've done a lot of good things and, you know, they've helped us learn things, but a lot of it is... it's on the same level as this, hyper-processed food, hyper-advertised food, over-advertised food. What value does it have? It might come to certain, you know, value later on, but a lot of these things, apparently they've said a lot of stuff has gone missing. A lot of things from the museums now are unaccounted for. I was watching a video from one of the guys who works for the museums the other day, and he says there's a lot of items that have vanished, disappeared, been stolen and so forth. Who by? Is it the royals? You know, the royals stolen them. Have they gone missing? Do they want people to learn things or find things out? You know, with as we are now with the technology, and I'm completely not against the advancement of technology, don't get me wrong, but, you know, not at the sake, for the sake of destroying people's villages. It's all about, you know, building things in the right places and what people negotiate and where things should be done and what should be done fairly so everyone's happy. You know, that's meant to be progress, you know, intelligent academic progress, not corporate domination and dictatorship. Some of this, I don't like the way they're going about doing it, you know, because, you know, when it comes to, you know, the relics of saints, if they've been knighted by, you know, there's a Ridley Scott popping up on the screen. Oh, it's Ridley Scott. It's Ridley Scott's left knuckle. Or whatever, you know, or Tony Blair's kneecap or something, you know, buried in Canterbury Cathedral, you know, it's Tony Blair's, you know, build a statue to him, you know, in Piccadilly or whatever, you know, this is the thing. But yeah, you know, if it's, you know, if it's graced by the sort, you know, the tip of Charles's, you know, scarab or whatever, or, you know, it's been blessed by Pope Francis or whatever, then, you have to be careful with it. It's a relic. You know, it has to be kept in a special place or not disturbed, you know, if it's in Canterbury Cathedral. But, you know, if it's, you know, before we you know, before we got conquered again, then, you know, chuck it. You know, it's got no value whatsoever. Or, you know, pull it to pieces.